As a counsellor and lecturer, I've heard hundreds of stories. One thing always stands out: how often people say, "I don't know what's real anymore." When the world sends mixed signals about identity, belonging, value, and truth, we lose our grounding. That's why this podcast exists. I'm Beverly at DDPCT, and this is The Signal Isn't Very Clear, a space to explore emotions, resilience, and recovery in a world that too often confuses us. We've navigated a complex, tangled landscape, one where the signal isn't very clear. We live immersed in a cacophony of voices, information and disinformation, often with little sense of what to trust or how to respond. So what does it mean to move from confusion to clarity? Is clarity even possible in today's world? And how do we as individuals and as a society find our way forward? The persistent challenge is that the signal in our public and personal communication has broken down. This confusion isn't simply about false facts spreading. It's about a fundamental erosion of shared understanding, and that's far more dangerous. Disinformation isn't just wrong information. It's designed to distort, divide, and disrupt the very framework that allows societies to function democratically. This breakdown means that people often feel overwhelmed or paralyzed by uncertainty, a condition linked to cognitive overload and decision fatigue. However, we must be cautious not to romanticize clarity as a simple goal. Calls for clear or objective information often mask deeper conflicts about whose version of reality is accepted. Attempts to enforce a single truth without acknowledging values, emotions, and different worldviews can backfire, leading to a further distrust and alienation. There's also a potential dimension. What one group sees as clarity, another may see as propaganda or censorship. The tension is vividly visible in political debates that polarize public opinion and media representation. Despite these challenges, there is strong consensus that critical engagement with information is essential. Civic literacy involves not just identifying misinformation, but understanding why it spreads and whose interests it serves. This includes recognizing cognitive biases, emotional triggers, and social dynamics that amplify falsehoods. Psychologically, the constant bombardment of conflicting information wears down mental health. Exposure to disinformation is linked with increased anxiety, distrust, and feelings of helplessness. The erosion of trust in institutions, governments, media, science further isolates individuals and communities, weakening social cohesion. This has direct consequences for identity integration within society. When public discourse becomes a battleground of misinformation, marginalized groups often suffer the most, facing social exclusion and targeted misinformation campaigns that undermine their legitimacy and safety. In the UK, these dynamics are compounded by economic inequality, historical social divisions, and a fragmented media landscape. People with lower socioeconomic status and education levels tend to be more vulnerable to misinformation and less likely to feel politically empowered. Moreover, the political climate has shifted towards more performative, polarized communication styles, often through social media platforms that amplify sensationalism over nuance. This trend challenges traditional values of measured discourse and tolerance, making the search for clarity more urgent. So, if clarity is elusive, how do we work toward it? Rebuilding civic literacy is key, but this is not just an individual task. It requires institutional responsibility and cultural change. Trust must be rebuilt through transparency, accountability, and open dialogue. Social capital, the networks and norms that enable collective action, is essential for democracy. Without trust and shared norms, communication breaks down. Crucially, this involves recognizing and confronting our own cognitive biases and emotional investments. Motivated reasoning can trap us in existing beliefs, even when faced with a contradictory evidence. Awareness of this is a first step toward genuine dialogue. While institutions have their role, individuals are not powerless. Civic literacy empowers people to seek reliable sources, engage respectfully with different views, and participate meaningfully in democratic processes. However, this must be balanced with safety, especially for marginalized voices who may face harassment or repression for speaking out. Knowing when and how to engage is crucial. Moving from confusion to clarity isn't about finding a final, uncontested truth. It's a continuous process, one of engagement, reflection, and connection. It requires humility, recognizing the limits of our knowledge and the complexity of the world. It demands courage, speaking up when it's safe and listening even when it's hard. It calls for compassion, remembering that behind every distorted message is a person trying to make sense of their world. Our minds crave stories and certainty, but the world often refuses to fit these neatly. Embracing this uncertainty, holding it alongside a commitment to evidence, empathy, and dialogue might be the clearest signal of all.